All of us reach a point in time where we are depleted and need to somehow find a way to reignite the fire within. But how do we spark that flame? Welcome to Reignite Resilience, where we will venture into the heart of the human spirit. We'll discuss the art of reigniting our passion and strategies to stoke our enthusiasm. And now, here are your hosts, Natalie Davis and Pamela Cass.
100%, Natalie. I think that the key piece is, yes, I do all this work with men. Yeah. Having said that, it works for anyone.
Yes.
Like if you're struggling, and I appreciate what you shared there, because what I used to say in my marriage, before we went through our dark stage, is that I would be upset and something wouldn't be happening. And I can remember a time when we used to sit down Saturday morning, Thursday in our neighborhood. Thursday, all the junk mail comes out, all the flyers and that. Yeah. Saturday morning, I'd go down to the local 7-Eleven, get the newspaper because it was the biggest paper. Because my father-in-law would come by to read the paper, right? He'd always read the obits, and we'd always have the same joke. "Hey, Dad, I looked. You're not in it. You don't have to look." I knew he was looking for his buddies to see how many he had left, and but we would sit there, and I can remember I was coming in April. April is my birthday month, and there was a smoker, and I said, I just said at the table, I think I would really like a smoker, and my wife, said to me, "You don't need a smoker. Why do you need a smoker?" Mm-hmm. It really bothered me, but I didn't address it at the time. Mm-hmm. Instead, I said to myself, what is this going to matter in a year from now if I have this argument with my wife? It's not going to matter. Yeah. That's a bad thing to do, right?
It does matter. Yeah.
Right. It does matter, because then it becomes a crutch. So what I found in my life, I don't know for you, Natalie, if you found the same, I found that I would use that as a comment all the time. Well, what is this going to matter in a year from now?
Yes.
Well, guess what? It didn't really matter much in the year now until it did.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And then it became, and really what was starting to matter was there was resentment with me to her. Mm-hmm. And she was looking at me as, I don't really respect this guy because he doesn't stand up for anything. Mm-hmm. Right? Because I'm thinking that, well, if I you're just right give. Here, whatever, just give that, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Today, if I was to say, listen, and we I by the way, I did buy that smoker.
Okay, good.
Okay. Too bad. I'm buying it. You won't buy it for me. I called her a bad name, and then I bought it. And I still have it. Now it's getting, it's half a dozen years old or so, and I use it fairly regular, and it's almost time to get one. And we chuckle over, I'm thinking about, I have to replace that smoker.
What are you going to do with it?
And she just gives me the look, right? I said, I know, babe, there's lots more important things to get it. It works fine. It's just because of the work that we've done as a couple. Yeah. She knows that was one of those catalyst moments for me where I wasn't disappointed in her. I'm the one who said that was okay for her to do.
Yeah.
Right. And how she said it and how she would act. That was me saying that's all right behavior. Yes. So I didn't learn anything about boundaries and what that meant and how to do that work. So now that we're better at it, we're nowhere, amazing, because we're not with it, but we're better at those boundaries. So when I do say, I'm thinking about buying something or doing something, and I get that kind of response back, right. So then I can say, so how did you come to that conclusion?
Yeah.
Like, what's in that for you? Like, when you say that, what's going on for you?
Yes.
Because for most of the time when we get into conversation or a discussion like that, we're looking to defend our position.
Yes.
Right. I'm not interested in defending my position. I'm interested to understand and figure out what's going on for you with this, like what's happening here. And most of the time it's going to be something to do with, well, if we spend money on this, because let's face it, you're not buying a smoker for $200, or you can, but they're junk, right? You're spending some, and we've made a conscious decision. Anything with a comma in it is a conversation. No one's going to go out and spend $1,000+ on something. So let's talk about that. And truly, in the end,
Yeah.
today it's not as important.
Mhm.
We get to have that back and forth. So I get to understand, where is she coming from? What's the value statement that she's trying to tell me?
Yeah.
And as best I can get, my wife's name's Kimmy, to express that to me.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So Kimmy, what's that? What is it about the expenditure or the smoker?
Yeah.
Some of it is that she enjoys sometimes, but not very often.
Yeah.
And we don't entertain like we used to. Coming out of the pandemic, life changed for lots of us.
Mm-hmm.
It was pretty regularly every other weekend or so, there would be half a dozen to 20 people at the house, because I used to cook, be a chef for a living.
Yes.
So we're making dinners, and we're inviting, have tons of people over, and
Yeah.
it made sense, right? Having more robust cooking equipment made sense. Today, that's not our lifestyle. So yeah, you're absolutely right, hon. Let's not put it on to that. And yes, we were planning on going to Vegas in February. Let's shift that. Let's shift our piece. What's more important?
Yeah.
So now we get into a priorities conversation. Are we aligned with what we truly wanted for our future plans?
Mhm.
And so the conversations are much different. They're much
Mhm.
more in depth than just a yes, no. And so I think there's, to a long-winded answer here for what Natalie was saying, I think, yeah, I'm glad to hear that you're aware that, hey, you'll deal with it on Sunday.
Yes.
And that making it be too much of a crux can be a problem, right?
Yeah.
I love
Well,
that.
Alan, I thank you for thinking that I said Sunday. It was some with an M, which is not the
Someday.
day.
Oh, I figured it just
Sunday.
someday.
I was like, did she say Sunday?
No, I didn't. I said someday. But I do.
I was giving you a
Alan,
deadline.
you gave me, and that just gave me anxiety. You see how I needed to just address that and accountability. I want to make sure that everyone was aware.
Yeah.
I just made a note to call Natalie
Call
after
Natalie on Sunday.
Saturday. I got her email, so I'll send it.
Yeah, make sure she's
Did
okay.
you deal with your emotions this week?
Exactly. This week.
When you were talking about the boundaries with your wife and
Yes.
speaking up, my coach said to me once, you deserve what you allow.
Yeah.
Such a kind of like well, that's mean. Don't say that. And I was like, you are so right. When we don't speak up and then we hold this resentment and then use that resentment against somebody because we didn't have the courage to set those boundaries at the beginning, that's not fair to them. And it's certainly not fair to ourselves either. I'd like you to share with us. So you help men go through this process. If they're married, what's the involvement of the spouse? Like, do they know that they're going through this, and what role do they play in that to help them along this journey, or are they not involved?
Yeah. So I've yet to introduce, although I've been toying with the idea of expanding it to doing couples work as well.
Mhm.
Right now, the focus is on helping the guys get
Okay.
right.
Mhm.
And I always encourage them to make sure that, this is the one thing you need to tell your spouse that you're doing.
Okay.
We do have a strict code of confidentiality.
Yeah.
What happens at Fight Club stays at Fight Club idea.
Mhm.
Because some of the guys are going to share some pretty intimate stuff, especially as they start to get a little bit more comfortable. And the goal is not to go around and say, hey,
Yeah.
Bob just said that, whatever was going on.
Mhm.
It's not about that. It's about us learning how to
Yeah.
create space.
Mhm.
And that's something difficult for guys to understand. And
Yeah.
creating space, or a container, or whatever term you want to use, is really about, again, it's about teaching us, the guys, to be present. Are you watching and looking at the man who's talking right now?
Yeah.
What are you noticing about him?
Mhm.
And so some of the training and the work that that I'm currently involved in is really helping me articulate that a bit better with our guys, and so I'll try to do that with you folks as well. It's just paying attention to even just facial tone, color, how it's happening, what's going for them, and then is it happening with me as well?
Right.
Ooh, he's talking about something that's really, and he's having a shortness of breath. I feel that I'm doing that too, because we become so disconnected as guys. Like, like I said, we're doers, we're not beers. And so it's about learning how to be in that place, and then you can go back and do the work with your spouse. And so I am looking at how to incorporate couples work. But right now it's about getting the guys to a place where they're starting to see success.
Yeah.
And regardless of whether if their relationship is in a place where, like mine was several years ago, where I don't know if tomorrow it's done,
Yeah.
it's not about that relationship in the end.
Yeah.
It truly is about you showing up and living the highest vision of who you are as a man. At some point, she's either going to recognize that it's happening,
Yes.
and then we'll fall all in love with you all over again,
Yes.
or she won't. And
Yeah.
either one of those should not have a bearing on
Mhm.
how you value yourself.
Yeah.
That's hard to say as I'm saying it out loud, because let's face it, who doesn't want to feel loved and appreciated and honored? We all do. For men, basically, we have three truly deep needs. That is, our needs is to know that we're respected, is to know that we are valued, and that we are desired. That last one can be tough for women in relationship. We don't necessarily, and please step in and say, I don't agree with you if you don't, is that I don't think women see their men, after, especially been in a relationship for a long time, as somebody that needs that type of support, like that they're desired. Because our society has taught us that we desire women, but men are not desired. And I'm not talking about the guy with the 6-pack abs, on the movies or that, but to be
not the eye candy. That's not what we're talking about. Yeah,
I'm not talking eye candy stuff. Like that's that's past that. True deep desire is that you're totally enthralled with this individual. They bring you, so the three things: we want to be validated, respected, and we want to be desired. Women want to be seen, heard, and feel safe. Right. And so we talk, seen and heard. That means being present, guys. How present are you? Are you on your phone like many of us are today during our conversations? Is it just couch surf, one on one end and one on the other, and not talking to each other? Are you planning date nights? Are you doing anything with each other? And then to feel safe, it's more than just, and I think I talked about that earlier, it's more than just financial and physical. It's about emotional.
Yeah.
It's about spiritual. What if she doesn't have the same beliefs as you?
Yeah.
What if those are different pieces? How are you going to reconcile that in your relationship? And so when we start to come from those perspectives, we understand that of all of the things that we can think about men and women and relationships, if we can distill it to those three key pillars on either side, and we work on that, I think we find that we'll have a society that comes back to really understanding the importance of family and couples and getting together and working truly as one. I think we've got a lot of work to do that here in North America. And but I think there's so many of us doing this work together, like your folks, you're doing, I'm doing in men's work. The more conversations we have this, the more times we can break the stereotype of what masculine and feminine is all about. What does it mean to be a man? What does it mean to be a woman? But those are less important in the big picture. It's about how are we showing up as people,
right?
Like how do we show up as a human? And then the other things will start to take care of themselves.
You unlocked something significant, and I want to go back to like the three needs of men and the three needs of women, and for me, same too. The first two were the same, but in the space that you had desired, I always had that as needed. And as you were talking about that, and I think that might be a school of thought that's out there, but just as I'm processing through. When I think of needed, the energy around that is more obligatory, right? Like I am obligated to need this individual to, to feel safe or to be, I need that instead of desired, because that's the layers of the energy that comes with truly desiring an individual is so much deeper than, well, I need that person, or they need to feel needed and wanted. Desired, I think is so deep and would create a richer relationship for men and women, or the masculine and the feminine.
Yeah.
Let's say it that way. Yes.
I love that you're using that term and the needed, because, I got a couple thoughts on that. One, I hadn't thought of it in that vein. You talked about needed, meaning like she needs me, or, I need him type of that. I think that's where you were going with it.
That's exactly it.
That's very interesting. And the moment you said needed, and I wrote it down, and I went needy.
Yeah.
How much, and that's the masculine side of it. Am I needy because I'm lacking desire? Am I needy? And when I'm needy, then the relationship goes from being an adult relationship to becoming more of a parent relationship.
Yeah.
Right now, it's I've heard men talk about, my ex said that she was raising another child.
Right.
Okay, buddy, let's talk about what that looked and felt like and what was going on. And sometimes for us guys, we do become mama's boys.
Yeah.
We didn't decouple from our mother, right? We replaced her with our wife or girlfriend, partners, right? Like we replaced that relationship, and she didn't get into it to have that. She got into this relationship because she may have needed you for safety, being, feeling seen and heard. But what she truly wants is to desire what you bring to the table. And that's so much bigger than just physical, right? It's about emotional. It brings, as you were saying, Natalie, it does bring some other nuances and layers to what that relationship looks like. And so that's tough. Quite honestly, I struggle with that, even to this day. It's one of the things is that I'm a physical individual, right? I chose a profession that was physical. I did everything with my hands. I'm cooking. Everything is, I'm doing stuff. So everything is high touch is important to me in how my life unfolds. That's not that doesn't resonate with my wife. That high touch piece isn't for her. And so we've had to learn, and I've had to learn, okay, I'll slow down a bit. And sometimes she needs to tell me, okay, I'm feeling smothered. Babe, thank you for telling me that. I just get caught in my routine, my daily routine. Okay, just give her some space. I don't need you to tell me you love me for the 50th time today. Oh yeah. Sorry, because we get caught in our daily routines, right? That I'm old enough to know what a record player was, right? So, that vinyl had a scratch in it, and it just keeps clicking. It just sits there. I'm here, it's like, okay, thanks for the bump. And now it moves to the next song, right?
Yeah.
And so sometimes this is what happens in a relationship. But unless you have some self-awareness and you starting to do this work, you'll tend to just struggle.
Yeah.
Just spin your wheels.
That's huge. But again, it comes back to the conversation, right? Like you have to be able to have those conversations with either yourself or your significant other partner. I think even kids, right? We haven't really touched on that piece of it, but it's so important for us to even have these discussions with our children, because we just assume that they're going to grow up under our guidance and become the humans that we envision them to be, but they're their own human with their own set of needs, and they don't have an understanding of the basic needs and how they're going to navigate who they are, who they're aspiring to be. It's so important in every relationship that we have.
Absolutely. And I think we take it for granted or don't recognize the influence that, our significant relationship have had in our lives. Right. And so when you're a parent, how dad treats mom is resonating for the son and the daughter.
Yeah.
Right. Yes. How mom treats dad is the same. Right.
Yes. Yeah.
How we handle conflict whether do we actually deal with conflict, or is it pushed under the rug? Do we engage in heavy conversations or deep conversations, or do we not talk about things? And I think when we start to recognize that these influences are there, and I think one of us had talked about already today that our values sometimes are borrowed.
Yes.
Right. Our beliefs are borrowed. Are they? And I always ask the question. I take them. Another tool is I take them through a values exercise, basically a list of 100 or plus adjectives to do a little chart with it. So I get them to do them in 5 columns and then summarize it down into 5 words. So, they'll go from whatever 25 to 30 down to 5, down to 1. And if at all possible now, out of those 5 or to 1, to write a sentence that summarizes that. It may have those words in it, it may not, but it summarizes your idea. And then the question is does that still serve you today?
Yeah, exactly.
Because again, we think that, well, I say I value family is important to me. Being a father has been important to me, but I can tell you, when I said that when I was in my 20s, career was more important. Family was not.
Yeah.
I took it for granted. Well, they're going to be there, right? And my kids, when their mom and I split, when everything fell down, they were, my oldest was just getting ready to go to kindergarten, and the other one's 2.5 years younger than that. So they just knew that dad worked lots.
Yeah.
But we never had I never recognized the work that I know today of how much influence that I was having by not being present with them. And not sharing. And so I used to say dads go through 3 different phases, and that dad's cool, and then dad gets all of a sudden, he's not very brilliant. What do you know, dad? And then dad's cool again. And I listened to Patrick Bet-David, and he talked about fatherhood and father-son relationships. And I like the way he coined it. And it was, at first we're idolized as dads, then we're villainized, right? Dad doesn't know it. And then we become humanized.
Yeah.
And I'm at that stage now with one of my sons anyways. And so, dad's kind of cool now. He wants to know my opinion on things. He wants to spend time with him. And I really liked how David framed that. It just made sense. That humanized really made sense to me. And it's something that, again, because of the mistakes that I've made in life, as I work with men, we just finished doing a module on brotherhood. What does it mean to be brotherhood? And so I asked them to come up with 5 people that would sit on their iron council.
Yes.
These would be your these would be your pallbearers. Who are those people? What attributes do they bring to the table? What are, why are they on that list? And if your dad's not on there, you got to wonder why. And maybe you didn't have a great relationship with him, but even if you didn't, he still left you with so many great lessons. Because you can go from that and say, well, I didn't like the way that was. My dad was an alcoholic, or, maybe he was, abusive to my mom. But I know that I will never be that man. So thank you, Dad, for showing me that.
Showing me what I don't want.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
We always think of that. Mentors are always the thing that show us positive. But I can tell you, the mentors that I have most affection for are the ones who are the hardest on me. That knew that, okay, Al, you're not really showing up today. Like you're slacking off. Like, come on. And those are the guys that I have the most respect for today. And today, in saying that, I know today some people would think, well, that was toxic. It wasn't toxic for me. It wasn't toxic anyways. Because I needed somebody to hold me accountable. Today in my men's work, we try to do our work with as little judgment as possible. We have enough judgment in this world, and for men, we get that hand over fist. Hey, if you're not excellent at being a carpenter, it's more the masculine type of thing, task, you would think, and we're not really manly. And so today our work is really about compassionate accountability. Hey, brother, you said you wanted to lose 40 pounds on this journey, and you're struggling. So how can I support you in that? What can happen? So it's not that I'm letting them off the hook.
Yeah.
Right. And it's not like I'm sitting there going, you're a loser. You don't know what you're doing. Get out.
Yeah.
That kind of stuff doesn't work for anybody. It works for very, very few people and for a
short exactly. Short-lived.
Maybe once if you're lucky.
Yeah.
And instead it's about compassion and showing up. Because as a father, that's how I want to show up. I want to show up and be there for my children and support them, but also let them know that, hey, you're not showing up 100% here. What's going on?
Yeah.
So what's happening for you? What are you going through? What is this season that's happening in your life? Yeah. And then my son and I have some pretty challenging conversations. And I see some of the choices he's making, and I'm going, at 27 or 28, I made some choices too. And if I was to do it over again, these are some decisions I would make differently. And this is why I would make the decision differently. I'm not saying you should do the same, but you should have a clear understanding of the decision you make today is tomorrow's outcome.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Right. And so change happens. Well, Tony Robbins is famous for saying change happens in an instant. We don't see it until something major happens.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Because it's so incremental. It's just so incremental.
Wow.
Beautiful.
I love that. Well, I love that we have this new era of the compassionate, awakened man. Again, probably not the era that we grew up in. This was not a space that existed. Let's just say that it was not a space that existed. So I want to just say thank you for bringing it to the forefront, making it your purpose and your mission to continue to impact the lives of individual men just as they're navigating through life. But for our listeners, if they want to learn more about what you have going on and how they can connect with you, how can they do so?
Yeah, the best way to do that is go to my website, theawakenedman.net. And when you go to the website, you're going to see a little pop-up. And the pop-up is a free exercise that you can download. It's called Setting the Compass. It gives you a flavor of the kind of work we do here. And what the exercise is going to ask you to do is to look at the last 12 months of your life. And there's a few questions in there for you to go through. I think there's 5 questions. And the last thing you'll do is you're going to write a headline that would articulate what the last 12 months have ultimately culminated with. And then the exercise asks you to do in the next 12 months, similar questions, forward thinking, and then to write a new headline, very similar to I'm the kind of person who. Yes. So download that exercise. I encourage you to go through it. I think you'll find that, what happened in the past is going to be quite a bit different than what you wanted to show up. Yeah. And you'll start to see the dissonance and the gap and where you can start to consider what work needs to happen. And from there, somebody can give me a call. I don't have ladies doing this work. It doesn't mean that I wouldn't accept and be more than thrilled to work with women for sure. I think we all need this kind of help. And so it's open to everyone, but it's a free resource. Go to theawakenedman.net, download that. I'm sure you'll have a lot of fun doing the exercise.
Awesome.
That is amazing. So that's a free tool, the compass. If you all did not hear, go to the website. We'll make sure that we drop the link in the show notes as well. Do you have any final tips, advice, words for our listeners? Something that that you want to share that you brought in with you today that we didn't have a chance to talk about?
Yeah, I like to have everybody leave with this idea. It doesn't matter who we are, where we are in the planet today. There's always an opportunity to gain wisdom, and we can gain wisdom from 3 different ways. We can gain it first through reflection. We talked a lot about that today, didn't we? About thinking about how life has unfolded for us, and so what are some of the different changes, and so that's one way. And the other way we can learn how to gain wisdom is to do that through imitation. So if you're thinking about being a podcaster, you want to get into coaching, you want to do something, just look at somebody, find a mentor, someone that can help you and guide you on that journey, whether they're truly somebody you speak to or someone that you just admire from afar, and gain some wisdom from that. Because it's the experience in life that really gets us the deep knowledge we have. And the final way that I encourage you to consider finding wisdom is through that experience.
Mm-hmm.
And it may not always be pleasant, but it's worthwhile.
Mm-hmm.
So don't be afraid to lean into the things that you're uncomfortable with, to reach out and get the help that you need so that you can become the person that you're aspiring to become. And we all do that as a planet, all our issues go away.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. That's powerful. That's
Yeah.
powerful. Comes down to those three things.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Well, thank you, Alan. This has been a delight. And obviously, Pam and I don't do, well, maybe it's not so obvious, but Pam and I don't do a lot of work in terms of the masculine energy space. So it's lovely to see that. And thank you again for the work that you're doing, the tools that you are giving individuals so that they can live their best on purpose and fulfilled lives. That is tremendous. We will make sure that we put all of your contact information in the show notes, and our listeners can reach out to you. And if you, our listeners, are wanting to know what's happening in the world of Reignite Resilience, you can head on over to reigniteresilience.com, check in with us there, or find us on Facebook and Instagram. And if you have not already, which I'm sure you all are sick of hearing me say it, if you've not already, or if you're new here, make sure that you subscribe to our Think Letter. It is a weekly Think Letter that gives you additional tools and resources to help you overcome adversity, to live in a resilient life, and continue to ignite the fire within. Until next time, we will see you all soon.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you for joining us today on the Reignite Resilience podcast. We hope you had some aha moments and learned a few new real-life ideas to fuel the flames of passion. Please subscribe on your favorite streaming platform, like or download your favorite episodes, and of course, share with your friends and family. We look forward to seeing you again next time on Reignite Resilience.